Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today's card features the Wishing You greeting stamp set, and I've paired it with some older Mama Elephant stamps and dies, as well as the new Little Cat Agenda dies that coordinate with the Little Cat Agenda stamp set for this little sweet, up in the clouds, happy hello card. 99% of my cards start like this, and I like using an A2 size die like this and laying out my components so that I can see what is going to fit within the framework of my card design. I knew I wanted to use that large Wishing You stamp set with a smaller greeting underneath it, and then I just needed to find those complementary embellishments and images to go along with this scene. And I decided to do kind of an up in the clouds type of scene, that landscape trio border there along the bottom edge. And then I picked a stamp set that had a balloon and that little girl hanging from it, plus the Little Cat Agenda came in as I was looking for other images with balloons and things like that to complement it, and I thought that little cat was just so super cute. He's holding, or she's holding, a little balloon heart, and I thought that would be fun to go along with the theme of the card. I did die cut a panel from Bristol Smooth cardstock using that large stitched rectangle die. You do not have to use it. You can if you want to. I kind of like the stitching design, so I decided to use it here. You could also just trim a panel to this size. I stamped the greeting, the large scripty Wishing You greeting from the Wishing You stamp set with Versamark ink, and I'm heat embossing it with white embossing powder. This is to do a little embossed resist. I wanted to make sure and have that big greeting on there first, and then I can work around it. So kind of building from the base layer up. I'm going to start adding my distress inks with squeezed lemonade first, and then dried marigold. Those are going to be my two colors I'm blending for the sunny sky background to start with. Make sure get a good blend there. I don't have to go all the way to the bottom since I'll be covering that up with a cloud border. Then I'm using the Tim Holtz Raise die, and I started with dried marigold distress ink through there, and I think that's going to work. I don't think I need to go any darker. I did buff it off too much the first time, and I'm going to leave that in so you can see that I tried to blend it out, and it blended out too much because the ink is still wet. If you want to do that, you definitely need to dry it first. I spritzed it with water from a distress sprayer to distress it even more, and then buffed it dry, and I felt like I lost too much of the sun rays. So I'm going to go back in with dried marigold distress ink and add another layer of that. And before I do any buffing or anything like that, I will spritz it with water again. But instead of buffing it dry, I'm going to just blot it dry and then take my heat tool and heat set that ink so that I don't have to worry about it blending all out again. So just hit it really good with the heat tool, dry that all, and then I will take the paper towel and buff off any ink that might be sitting on top of the embossed areas. There is the background, and I can start building from there. Now I did die cut another rectangle, this time from some smooth white cardstock, and from that I die cut a border from the landscape trio die that's going to go across the bottom edge of the card there to kind of build up that sunshine type look of up in the clouds and flying away with the balloons. For the rest of the greeting for my card, I'm going to take another piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. You could probably use regular cardstock here if you wanted to as well. In fact, it might be a little easier because the Bristol cardstock's so smooth that the ink doesn't dry quite as fast. It's also why you get such a great blend with distress inks. But I stamped a smaller greeting from Wishing You that says a happy hello with Versamark ink and heat embossed that with white embossing powder. Then I'll trim it into a thin strip, and at first I thought dried marigold would go dark enough, and it really is just not enough of a contrast, I don't think, even though I really want to stick with that orange theme. So I grabbed some carved pumpkin distress ink instead, and that's going to give me just enough more color that it's going to be darker and really bold and kind of stand out. I did heat that up again with my heat tool because again the ink is going to be super wet. I'm going to blot any of that ink that's sitting on top of the embossed areas off with a paper towel, and then trim this strip down just a little bit. I'm using some scissors here. And this little strip's going to go underneath the large scripty embossed resist. All the rest of the elements for my card are going to be stamped on some Nina Solar White cardstock. That's going to be the big balloon, the balloon string, and the little girl, plus the little bunny here in a little bit. I added it late from the Carried Away stamp set. And then the little cat with the heart balloon from the Little Cat Agenda. I'm going to color in everything with Copic markers. I did use a black ink that is good for Copic marker coloring, something that won't bleed. This is the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. And then I'm just going to color in everything. The colors I'm using are shown across the bottom of the screen. You may notice that I had to restamp several of the images. Some of the first color combinations I tried to use were not working for me. And that happened with several of the images. For whatever reason, sometimes it goes that way. Don't be afraid to start over. Stamp it again and color it again. The little girl actually was going pretty well, but I had accidentally overfilled my skin tone markers, and I had left the skin tone for last, which I hardly ever do. And what ended up happening was a big blob of ink came out and ruined the image. So I had to completely start over with her, which was a little bit of a bummer, but luckily these are pretty small images and the coloring goes fairly fast. Another thing I tried to kind of stick with for this card, as I was designing it, I was thinking about it in terms of rainbow color, which might seem kind of funny because there's absolutely no rainbows on this card or anything like that. But the background is definitely oranges and yellows. So for the rest of the components for my card, the hearts are red. So I'm pulling in that red part of the rainbow. The outfit on the little girl is blue and the big balloon is green. The only color not represented is purple. And if you've seen any of my rainbow type videos before, you know that if there's ever a color to leave out, for me it always seems to be purple. I like purple, it's just not my favorite. And so it just didn't really fit in anywhere on my card, so I left it off. But it's just kind of how I was thinking as I was designing this card, was rainbow colors. What colors can I pull in that are going to look good with this card design? And I thought kind of keeping to those bold primary rainbow colors would be really fun, and it ended up being great. Now this balloon can be a trick to color, and that's just because it's got so much surface area. I wanted to leave a little highlight area here, and you can see it's hard to blend out. I went over it and over it and over it several times, just trying to get the most perfect blend. I even pulled in a little YG17 here, which actually ended up being a little too dark, and I had to work even harder to blend all three of these together, but it ended up working out okay. One thing you want to keep in mind is if you have to blend a lot, you're really saturating the paper with the alcohol ink markers, and so you may need to give it a minute in between blending and coloring so that the color doesn't bleed outside these stamped lines. Once I have all this coloring done, I am going to take the coordinating Carried Away and Little Cat Agenda dies and die cut all of my images for the card. Oh, I forgot little boots for the little girl, so we need to color those real fast. I'm just using a couple shades of cool gray and then a little Copic colorless blender to remove some of the ink from the toes of her boots to kind of look like highlights or scuff marks, plus some very light blue for any of those little white areas on her outfit. And then we'll die cut her as well. So mixing and matching lots of different Mama Elephant supplies here. I love being able to mix and match. Here is kind of what I got everything laid out so far. I'm going to go ahead and take a black glaze pen and add detail to the eyes and the buttons on her jacket, as well as the eyes on the cat. That really makes them all pop. I'm going to put a little foam adhesive on the back of the cloud border and then pop that along the bottom edge of the card. A little foam adhesive just on the top portion of the girl and a little foam adhesive on the balloon. I kind of have to figure out exactly where that balloon's going to go and add some little foam adhesive here. Part of the balloon is going to get cut off because I don't want it covering up too much of the greeting. I just kind of want it to appear like she's floating there next to it. I added some little dabs of liquid glue on the balloon string, place that coming down from the balloon. Add the little girl here hanging from it. Go ahead and put a little foam adhesive on the back of the little cat agenda kitty cat too, and have it sitting kind of on top of the W in wishing you. I'm also going to pop up that little greeting that goes underneath. And here's where I really felt like I needed that one more small image, and there's a little teddy bear and a little bunny in the wishing, or carried away rather, stamp set. So I stamped the bunny, and I'm just going to color it in with some of those earth tone brown shades that I had used before for the little girl's hair. Add a little R20 for the cheek on the bunny, and then die cut this image with the coordinating carried away die. And then I can simply pop this hanging kind of from the toe of her boot, like he's holding on. And I think that really finishes off the design of this card. I'm going to take a little Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen for the large balloon, which will add some nice shimmer and shine to the balloon. Also a little Wink of Stella for the cat's balloon as well. So both balloons are very shimmery and shiny. And then I'm going to take a scattering of Pretty Pink Posh sequins, which I've attached with some Zots Bling glue dots, and then some Pretty Pink Posh iridescent mini star confetti, which I'm going to scatter throughout the card design. I love the way this looks. The iridescence just kind of picks up the color that from whatever you've put it with and adds a really fun touch. And I scattered those throughout the card design. So some light yellow sequins, I think those are lemon meringue, they are. Sparkling clear 4mm sequins, and then the iridescent mini star confetti. Those are attached with some glossy accents. I'll go ahead and put some adhesive on my top fold card base, place this panel right on that card base, and my card featuring that awesome new Wishing You greeting stamp set is all finished. Thanks for joining me today for this greeting card featuring the Wishing You stamp set from Mama Elephant. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.